Actually day 7 this time. Yeah, at the start of the video yesterday, I said day 7 when it was day 6. Today is actually day 7. So yesterday we wrote some code to display our journal entry feedback items in our list in a dialog. We ran into a display bug while we were working on that, and that's where we left off. So we're going to pick right up with the display bug and fix that. So let's kick over to our editor. Okay, great. So we have our text editor and we have our simulator. If you haven't refreshed yet or restarted for the day, don't, because we want our broken state from our lorem ipsum text. If you have refreshed, just click on this little button here, add your thoughts on this quote, just make it really, really long. And again, if you need some dummy text because you don't want to type something, you can search lorem ipsum generator. And you know what, let's just pull it up one more time. So if you search lorem ipsum generator, you can click on any of these. There's even flavorful ones, like there's a Nickelback lorem ipsum generator. There's hipster ipsum, I think is another one. But you get a site that looks like this. You say, I want 5 words, sentences, paragraphs, whatever. You can change this. We want 3. Hit generate. Now that we're here, here is some lorem ipsum text. You can copy all this. In our case, we probably just want 1. You can take it back in here, paste it, allow paste, and then submit. I'm going to go ahead and submit another one because why not? Oh, this might actually, interestingly enough, introduce a bug case where the quote that we have in memory right now is not the quote. Oh yeah, fun fact, you can see it just reloaded. Yeah, okay, so that is an interesting case. I'm curious. Great, it does show up for this one. Okay, so yeah, if you do submit that quote, since the date has changed, we wrote some code, I think it was yesterday, but if not yesterday, it was 2 days ago, where we added this load quotes call after we submit an entry. That will refresh the data on the screen, which will fetch the quote for today as we wrote this code to do up here. So that will change the date for you. Okay, so we want to fix this overflow. This is a debug exception, a debug handler, if you will, that makes this very visible in debug mode. You can see that we have our debug banner up here. We're running locally. This banner also goes away in production. This is just for debugging by default, but if you really want to, you can keep it on in both environments, or any environment, I should say. But this behavior out of the box will not continue to exist in production. Since we're debugging and developing locally, we will see this. But if we were to ship our app as is, we wouldn't see this striped color and this error. It would just overflow. So the text would still go out of the bounds. So we're going to fix that, right? So let's go to our quote view. We have this alert dialog. Part of our issue here is that we have a sized box with a height. I'm going to select the size box, use a code action in VS Code to remove this widget. That keeps the child, so the column, but it removes the sized box. We just don't need the sized box. So if I hit this now, hey, this looks better. It doesn't have a fixed height. It looks like it kind of it changes height based on the contents, which is actually really nice. But we have another scenario, right, where we're not overflowing, but we're totally going to be able to overflow. I'm going to get another piece of text. Sorry about the cough. I'm going to get another piece of text from lorem ipsum generator, go back into our application, paste this here, allow paste, submit. All right, perfect. We have our overflow. So what we want to do is keep everything inside this dialog, but we want to allow people to scroll in this dialog. You can't really tell. I'm clicking and dragging with my mouse. Maybe you can hear it. But we can't scroll in this dialog. So we're going to fix that. So we removed our sized box. And now what we're going to do is just set this to scrollable, true. I'm going to refresh or reload the UI. And again, remember, if you're in VS Code, simply saving the file will reload the UI for you. Okay, this looks good. We're not bleeding out, and it's scrollable. I'm actually pretty happy with how this looks. This is sufficient for me for my purposes, so I think we'll leave this as is. There are some things we can clean up here, and maybe, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So we know that this doesn't, hopefully we all agree, this doesn't look very pretty, and we would like for it to look pretty. People like pretty applications, so let's see if we can give the people what they want. So we have a text style, and I'm going to set the font size to something like 24. You can commit injustice by doing nothing. You notice that like when we set the size, not only did it get bigger, but the way that this is presented changed. This is kind of centered and doing its own thing, but if we make this bigger, it's now left aligned. It's fully left aligned. Part of the reason why is box sizing in Flutter, and the default value for like our cross-axis alignment, right? Cross-axis, yes, cross-axis alignment. So if we wanted to make this left aligned without changing the style here, we could go in and set the cross-axis alignment to cross-axis alignment start, and that should take care of it. Yeah, you can see that it's all left aligned now. That's fine. We don't really want that in this case. We want to make these bigger. So I'm going to remove that, but I just wanted to show you kind of how that works and why it works the way that it does. Because this is wrapping, the box takes up the entire width now. So the text is going to left align. And before, when the text was smaller, the box only took up a slice of the screen, and the box was positioned in the center, and the text was left aligned in that box, but it was centered. Okay, so that looks fine, I guess. We'll circle back and improve this as we go. So let's say font size is, let's do 20. Okay, that seems reasonable. I'm going to put a sized box in our columns children above the elevated button, but under the author, just to give it a little bit of space. So I'm going to say, let's do 80. Let's see what that looks like. That seems pretty good, I think. We can keep that as is for now. Generally, quotes are italicized, right? So how do we handle that? So we have a text style, and we can, I need to remember, is it, I'm pretty sure it is in the text style. Let's take a look. So if I command click into this, I can see some of our options. We have font style. You see that that's a font style, a typeface variant to use when drawing the letters, e.g. italics. Okay, that's what we want. So now that we're here, we can go back to our code and we can say font style dot italic. If we save this, it's now italic. Those are really strong italics, but maybe if we change our font here at some point in the future, that'll lighten the slant of the italics. So we have Marcus Aurelius. We could put this in like a box, maybe the whole thing in a box if we wanted. That might be kind of nice. So if we wanted to do that, we could do like a container, child. We got to put these back in a column because a container can only have one child. Here's a hint. If it says child, it's one. If it says children, it's a list. So we could put those here. In theory, reloading this, nothing really changes. Okay, yeah, nothing changed. That's great. But we could add like some padding, edge insets.all 8, color, maybe like, I was kind of thinking like a papyrusy color, but I'm not sure if I can give you a papyrusy color off the top of my head. Brown 100 is not bad. Let's do that. So color brown 100. So we could play around with this. Actually, I don't know if I like this at all. So I probably will remove this and just put it back to how it was and keep it floating. and we can toy with that some more. But if you were to want to put that in like a box or something, that's kind of the approach that you could take. I'm just undoing a lot. I'll give you a second to look at where we land. So we have our text widgets back in the columns children list above the sized box. If we save that, it looks like this. Okay. So now's a good question. Do we want to fix the font? I think so. Let's pick a font. So we're going to do a couple different things. I'm going to pull up pub.dev again. Remember, this is the package registry for Dart and Flutter apps. I'm going to search for Google Fonts. Excuse me. The first package is the one we want. I've used this before, so I'm pretty familiar with it, but I'll do a quick high level. So this gives us fetching at runtime. And you can also use it in production to reduce app size, which is really nice. But the text will render, and it will fetch this while the application's running. So we don't have a big application that we have to send to our users, but once they install the application, it will fetch the fonts that are necessary if they're not already cached on the device. So if the device doesn't have those fonts, it will fetch them. Otherwise, it'll just use the ones on the device that match. And then you have font bundling in your assets as well if you want to set that up for like offline first applications. So we're going to we'll go to the import or the installing tab, and you can see a command right here. So we can either run this or we can just add this to our dependencies. I'm just going to add this to our dependencies in our pubspec. That command does this for us, so it's kind of the same thing. But this means we don't have to go to the command line and run commands and scare people off with the command line. Again, if you, I say that, but again, if you save in VS Code with the Flutter extension, it will fetch these for you, so you don't have to download them. But again, you need to run flutter pub get if you do not have the VS Code installation, the extension installed. Okay. So we've installed them. Here's how you use it. That's not really helpful, so we'll go back to the README. So you can see that we need to import Google Fonts. I'm going to do this in our main.dart. Okay. And then you can see, here's how you would kind of use those fonts. So you would say, Lado is actually one that I like, so we could try to use Lado. There's an example in here about setting the theme. So we kind of want all the text to look similar, right? So let's do this instead. You can also use Google Fonts Lado text theme to make or modify an entire text theme to use the Lado font. That sounds great. Let's go to our theme. So we have our theme right here with our theme data. Excuse me. And you can see here that they do base theme, .copy with, text theme, and they provide it right there. So our text theme would be, can it be provided to theme data, or does it need to be passed in a copy with? Let's find out. Scroll through this. This might take a minute. Text theme, text theme. Okay. So in theory, we can just say text theme and paste something like Google Fonts Lato text theme. Now, we did change our dependencies. So what we need to do now is restart our application. So we've restarted, and hopefully you notice that the slant has changed. It's less intense. That's because we are now using the Lado text theme. To prove this, what we can do is we can go here, we can comment this out, save it, come back, and now, well, maybe the slant's the same, but the font looks better with that much of a slant. If you haven't used Google Fonts before, it is a treasure trove of fonts. And all of these, to my knowledge, are free to use. So you can come in here, you can let the page load all the way, please. Okay, they might be having an issue. Or maybe uBlock is causing some issues. Wild. Okay, yeah, I don't know. They definitely seem to be having some issues on their end right now. One more refresh. Okay. So I wonder if these work. So we can change this to you can commit injustice by doing nothing. Man, that is a really great quote and fairly topical right now. So this is actually really hard to use with the images and stuff being broken. And half of the nav is over here. This is kind of rough. But the idea here is like we can add custom text. We can also search for fonts. We can change the size. And we can really just figure out which font we want to use. So you can also toggle like italics and bold and different weights and things like that. Unfortunately, their menu's a little messed up right now, so it's kind of hard to tell. But we can find, I really like Oswald. Playfair is not bad. We actually may use Playfair. So just kind of browsing through the fonts. Oof, not a fan of that one. Work Sans is pretty good. Okay, now we have to decide between Playfair and Work Sans. And probably the best way to do this is try them both out. So if we set this to Playfair, that does look really good. The other one was Work Sans. Okay. That looks pretty good too, but I think I like Playfair better. I am a big fan of that. Another option is that we could use Work Sans for our text theme, and then for the quote specifically, we could add a custom text theme just for that one text widget. So if we wanted to do that, that would be pretty similar. Let's do that. I think I'm going to use Playfair for the entire thing, but I do want to show you how that can be done. So we have our quote view. So if we go back here, we're in text style. We don't want style. We want theme. No, it's not theme. Maybe it is in style. Let's find out. Text baseline height, text decoration, text overflow. Where is that? It's not in text, right? No. Oh, no, it's not style. Interesting. I thought there was a property on text or text style that would let us specify the theme. Here's an interesting thing you can do. You can create a new theme and use theme.ofcontext.copy with text theme. And then we can provide our new text theme. So Google Fonts let's pick something. I think we said Work Sans text theme. And then pass that in as our child. Oh, interesting. Cannot be assigned to the parameter. Oh, there we go. Sorry, it's a function and I was missing that. Okay, so that changed to the work. Man, that does look good. The Work Sans text theme. So I feel so silly not remembering how to do this on the text widget itself. Font feature, text decoration, because I know there is a way. Style, overflow, text width basis. Maybe not. Maybe that used to be a thing and maybe it is no longer a thing in Flutter. So if you did want to change it, you can wrap that text widget in a theme, copy the existing theme, and provide a new value for the text theme. For what it's worth, this is a great way to theme off small parts of your application that differ from the main theme of your application. This child doesn't have to be a text. It could be a column. It could be a scaffold. It could be an app bar. It could be a center. It could be whatever. And it can be as big or as deep as it needs to be. In our case, it's just a text. And again, I think I do want to keep our original theme for everything. So I'm going to go ahead and revert these changes, but I did just want to show you how that would kind of fit together. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. Let's try to set a text align for our author to text align right. Okay, so pop quiz. Why didn't this move anything? No one's here to answer, so I'll go ahead and answer. So we aligned this to the right, but it didn't move. And the reason why is because there is a box around this text, and it is the size of the text. And whether we align it to the left or to the right, there's no room, there's no wiggle room for this to move its alignment. In fact, I'll show you something really neat. So there's this widget, this button up here for the widget inspector. I'm going to click this, It's going to open something in VS Code on this side over here, and we can do a couple different things. So if we pull up our simulator, I'm going to move it over here. There is a little cursor, toggle widget select mode. If you toggle this and then click on a widget, it will inspect it and tell you all sorts of information about that widget. So we can see it's rich text. You can see the box. You can see the box. You can also look at the box of this one. And not only can you move around by clicking this icon and then clicking in the app, but you can just click over here in the widget inspector and kind of see. So our stream builder takes up this much space. Our column takes up the entire thing. And then our center takes up the entire thing. Scaffold takes up literally the whole screen, and so on and so forth. So in our case, we can see that we have a loose fit. We can change this and see what a tight fit would look like. In our case, it doesn't really change anything. Oh, weird. That's not actually... Huh. That's interesting. We can set flex properties. This is because we set flex properties in something that's not flexible. But the point that I'm getting at here is that you can actually do a lot with the widget inspector as well. It's a great tool to become comfortable with. It's a tool that I probably don't use as much as I should, but it is really helpful. Okay, so with this in mind, we can figure out a couple things, right? So if we wrap this in a container, actually, let's not use a container. That's overkill. If we wrap this in a size box and we do size box expand, we can, wait, so we're expanding in a column, which is not what we want to do. So if we expand in a column, it would take up the entire dimension that is available in that column. So what we might want to do instead is maybe do a media query here. So we can paste our text as the child of the size box. Nothing will change. We'll give this a width. We do media query .of context .size .width. And now we've made this box the entire width of this screen. It's a little weird having the quote and the name run up to the exact edge of the screen. So maybe what we want to do is wrap them in some form of padding. So we have a couple options. We can pad this text and we can pad this sized box, or we can pad the entire column and this button might get pushed in a little bit too. I kind of like that approach, so I think we're going to pad the entire column. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Sorry, that wasn't very clear. Let me undo and I'll show you again. So I grabbed this column, I selected it, went to refactor, wrap with padding. All this does is that column right here and all of its children, everything inside that column gets moved inside of a padding. So you can type that manually if you'd like. Getting comfortable with the refactoring tools in VS Code is really, really helpful, especially for Dart. Okay, cool. So now you can see you can commit injustice by doing nothing and Marcus Aurelius. And the name is not flush with the side. The quote doesn't start flush with the side. It feels pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how that's turning out. How are we doing on time? I actually have no idea. Let's clean this up a little bit. So we can make this const, so it'll be more performant, just slightly, but every little thing adds up eventually. Okay, this feels pretty good. We can review the previous journal entries. We can scroll through them. Pretty happy with that. This feels fine. Text looks good. Button looks fine. Okay. So I think what we want to probably talk about next would be push notifications. Or a daily notification. They're not really push because they're not coming from a server. So I will go ahead, we'll try something different. If you're following along, I'm going to pull up the pub dev for the notification library that I've used in the past. And I actually do not remember what it is by name. So we're going to pull up GitHub and find out. Okay. Pub spec YAML. There's a lot going on in here. Google sign-in purchases, Apple sign-in. Flutter local notifications. That's the package. Okay, so if we grab this, paste this in here. Hey, great, it's still being updated, which is always nice to see. This is the package we're going to use for our local notifications. There's a lot going on here, and I don't know if I would really recommend tackling this on your own, especially if you're new to Flutter. If you're not new to Flutter, totally go ahead and try and tackle it. But I'm going to leave us here with this. Pull up the install, and, well, I was going to install it, but it probably would be better to start there with our video tomorrow. Okay. I'm back. I don't have my Santa hat on. Hang on. Okay, I've got the hat. We have cleaned up a couple things. We fixed a bug with our display. We made our application look a little prettier. We changed some font sizes. We installed Google Fonts, and we selected a Google font. We were very lucky at that. We selected one pretty quick, which was really nice. And we have a plan for what we're going to tackle next. So I think what I'm going to do is on the weekends, these videos might be a little longer. So tomorrow, you might get a longer video than we have had today or previously. And I think my goal will be to tackle some of the more complex problems on the weekends. So setting up like push notifications. And while that doesn't necessarily sound super complex, because every app has push notifications, right? We have to go into some iOS files and some Android files to enable this, and we've not touched anything iOS or Android yet. So look forward to that tomorrow, and that's what we'll plan on doing. If you haven't yet, don't forget, you can subscribe to the channel and be notified of when these videos come out and anything else. It's really cool. On top of that, if you found this useful, I always appreciate a thumbs up, preferably via clicking on the page. But if you want to give me these, I'm happy with those too. And I think that's about it. Have a great weekend.